1. Hello and welcome to the Dragon's Lair podcast. I hope you are well. I'm Jamie, and joining me once again this week is my co-host Gavin Thomas. How are we, Gav?
I'm very well, Jamie, very well on this very Gwent-like Thursday night. It's a bit dark and a bit windy down here in Sussex.
How's your week been? Did you play rugby after on Saturday? Did you get roped into it?
I didn't. I went there. I got changed into kit, but then I just made a conscious decision not to take myself on the field. Being 10 years older than everybody else, I decided it was probably time not to go.
I mean, 300 caps you've got for that club, isn't it?
It is, yes.
My goodness, fair play to you. Fair play. 300 caps. You're like their Alan Wynne-Jones, isn't you, I suppose, their version.
Well, you know, like if Alan Wynne-Jones was a really ineffective second row, I am exactly like Alan Wynne-Jones.
Well, we have a guest with us tonight, Gav. Our first ever guest on the podcast, which is nice, isn't it? Yeah. So we have got the chairman of the Dragons Official Supporters Club, Mr. Dan Hallet. How are we, Dan?
I'm well, thank you. Thanks for the invite.
Not a problem. Thank you for joining us. So I thought we'd kick off the pod with yourself, Dan. Just could you give the listeners a bit of background about yourself and your sort of connection to the Dragons?
Yeah, certainly. Basically, I was there from the start. I was actually in attendance at the very first Dragons home game. I would like to open it up to you two, if you can remember or know where and who the opposition were.
No, I missed them. I don't know. I'm guessing. I mean, it's a total guess. I'm going to say something like, I don't know, Borders or Ulster, something like that.
I was going to say Celtic Warriors, but
it was actually, well, the first home game that they played. They did play an away game down in Cornwall, I think, was at Pontypool Park. Oh. And it was against Leeds Tykes, including the future Scarlet, or maybe it was Scarlet before that, Matt Cardy at fullback. So it was it was when they were Gwent Dragons. Then they became Newport Gwent Dragons, and with all the potted history of that since, but I think we can just brush over that.
Yes.
Yeah, so that was pretty much 20 years ago, which is making me feel quite old. And most of the season since, I've either been a season ticket holder or there were a few times when was living in London or in various other places I didn't. But yeah, so basically, the reason I have very grey hair is of Dragon supporting.
And where was your sorry, Dan?
No, go on, carry on.
Where was your allegiance before the Dragons? Which was your club before them?
Spent many a misspent afternoon, evening down on the banks of Pooler Park on the terrace. Usually, my dad would go and stand up on the back of the concrete steps towards the bandstand end, and me and my mates or my brother would go and harass the touch judges or opposition players down on usually around about the 22 mark there. So, and I listened to the first podcast, and you mentioned about the New Zealand game in '89, and there is video evidence that I was there in my very fetching two-tone Nike rain jacket, grey and green, and I watching it back a few years ago, and I went, "Oh my God, that's me." So yes, I was there for that, and a bit of a hammering that we got, but still, it was a very full Pontypool Park that time.
ED days, isn't it?
It is, yeah. So basically, I went from supporting Pontypool as a boy when we would beat pretty much everybody, and then 2003 happened, and we haven't beaten many people since. That's the team I support. Still try and get to Pontypool Park every now and again, but Dad's still a season ticket holder. He goes every week. Well, usually quite often goes on his little boys' jollies down to West Wales to see. Well, when they were in the Championship, a couple of times he's had to go and sleep on somebody in somebody else's house, one of the opposition supporters, much to my mother's disdain. Dirty stop out, but yeah. So Pontypool, and basically the reason decided to sort of jump in with the Dragons is me and my brother kind of just had a realization that if we wanted to watch professional rugby, we knew Pontypool weren't going to be that club.
No.
Great history, great ground, but the infrastructure wasn't there for professional rugby. Hence why they dropped down the leagues for far too many years. And so we sort of thought, well, we both lived in Cardiff at the time, and there was no chance in hell that we were going to go and watch Cardiff Blues.
Excellent. That's a wise choice, Dan.
Yeah. So exactly. Unfortunately, my father-in-law is a season ticket holder there, and
okay.
But we all have our crosses to bear.
Right. So, I mean, you've been there from the start then. You've seen it all, Dan, haven't you, as a supporter? So, what would you say is your favourite memories of supporting the Dragons? Are there any particular games that stand out to you? Any real good moments? I know there haven't been many over the years,
yeah,
but can you think of some?
we have our moments in usually once a season where we perform above and beyond. But the biggest thing I have enjoyed about the Dragons is when we managed to go away and go into Europe, go to some, obviously because we're not usually in the top tier, we go to some rather random places. I'm not as bad as our secretary, Ryan, who has ended up in Bucharest and in Russia and goes to all the random places, takes him two or 3 days to get there. But the away trips, especially the ones to France, a couple of times Toulouse, Bordeaux, we've done that a few times now, but Bordeaux's an absolutely fantastic city, and going there with a big bunch of Dragons fans all trying to make a little bit of noise in the stadium. It's a fairly big bowl of a stadium that they play in, but those are the ones that give the memories for me. Apart from when we went to Cash, I might have got my phone mugged off me.
Oh no!
Stood outside the bar, literally about 2 minutes earlier, talking to a couple of the Cash players, a massive Fijian winger and a Canadian prop. Might have had a beer or two and my phone in my hand. They went off. One of them was off home, and the other one was popping back into the bar. Somebody just ran straight past me, grabbed my phone out of my hand, and off they went. And I just thought, 2 minutes earlier, I'd have had a Fijian winger that could have chased him down. But being a short, fat man from Gandifeth, I couldn't quite get there.
Oh dear.
Yeah, so there are plenty. As I said, there's always been usually a performance or two during the season that we can get out for, and it's usually at home. It's usually very noisy, and I think the crowd there really does help with that.
Absolutely, it does help, doesn't it? I think my favourite nights of Rodney Parade are the ones where we're least expecting to get a win. I thought Munster last season. I know it was a Sunday afternoon, and everyone was a little bit irks it's a Sunday because a lot of supporters don't like the Sunday games, do they? I don't mind personally, but I understand a lot of supporters, they like their Friday nights or they like their Saturday afternoons. But that Munster game, I thought was terrific for the atmosphere and the crowd. And it does make a difference to the players as well, doesn't it? It really does. When you got the 16th man there. And I know I'm going to be biased. I'll sound biased, but I think Rodney Parade's the best stadium out of the regions for atmosphere. I really do. I don't think it'll be beaten, can it?
No. And they were always back in the day when we always seem to manage to get the worst out of Mike Phillips.
Yeah.
So him and Dan Bigger, whenever they used to come to Rodney Parade, I don't know what it was, brilliant players, both of them. But something would happen when they turned up at Rodney Parade and things would go wrong. We'd end up beating the Galacticos or whatever nonsense we wanted to call them. But no, the team they had, we should never have beaten them.
No.
But we would.
But we got a pretty decent record over the Ospreys at Rodney Parade, haven't we? Like you said, we did beat them in their Galactico days. So I can remember the crowd really getting on top of Mike Phillips.
Yeah.
And Dan Bigger and all them lot. Brilliant nights.
It's a difficult ground to come to, though, isn't it? And I always I never really bought the House of Pain argument down at Sardis Road. I think Rodney Parade is a tougher ground to come to. It's right on the pitch. The fans are, and I'm going back a very long time when I used to go to Rodney Parade as well. And it does have quite a hostile atmosphere. I know, and that's a carryover from the. I remember going to Pontypool Park, and some of the things I heard as quite a young and impressionable young man. Quite. And I think
if my mother listens, it wasn't me. I wasn't saying it.
I can remember going to a game in Pontypool Park with my parents, and my mother was stood with myself and my dad, and somebody said something outrageous. And when the fans go, "There's a woman there," and he said, "Oh God, she's come to watch Pontypool. She's got no standards. I wouldn't worry about it." And I think there's very much that culture down the Rodney Parade as well, which I like.
Yeah, I have to be honest though. I think the past couple of seasons, I think it's lost its edge of Rodney Parade a little bit. I think we do need to get back to when it was an intimidating place. I think the past few seasons we've lost that. I don't think results have helped. But if we can get back to making it a really difficult place for teams and supporters to come to, because I always remember when Bernard Chapman first came to the club, he held a Q&A with supporters, and I was speaking to him, and he said, when he was with Leinster, he said, we used to hate coming here. He said, out of all the grounds in Europe, we would hate coming to Rodney Parade. I was like, oh, really? Why is that? He said, oh, it's the crowd are on top of you. Every mistake is cheered. And he said, we found it really intimidating, more so than Cardiff and Swansea and, those Scarlets. They used to really hate coming down to Rodney Parade. And I want us to get that back again.
Yeah,
I want us to have that edge and to make teams, make mistakes and be on edge and have that intimidation factor. What do you think, Dan?
Yeah, it was starting to get a little bit like that at the beginning of last season when we were winning a few games. Obviously, then it tailed off slightly with various injuries and something just wasn't clicking. But yeah, it is what we actually need. We need something to go against us, a refereeing decision or something like that, just to wind us up a little bit, and then then you can usually get the atmosphere getting a little bit more, little more tasty. But that's the bit I think it's it kind of goes to the old Wimbledon Football Club adage where everyone hates us. Or was that Millwall?
Yeah.
Kind of
Millwall.
I think.
Yeah, that's definitely Millwall.
Yeah.
But it's that kind of thing, like backs against the wall. Everything is stacked against us, so let's prove them wrong, kind of thing. And we always seem to have that. Obviously, apart from the first season when we were at one point in the last game of the season, we were actually, I think we were winning and we were going to be top of the league, but then results elsewhere kind of
that's right, yeah,
went against us, and some other team won. I can't remember who we were now. But, so was it the Ospreys or was it?
No, that was the Ruddock, wasn't it? It was Mike Ruddock's first season.
Yeah, and
people forget how good we were in that under the Mike Ruddock. We were a proper good team. People forget that. It's a long time ago now, but Dragons were a good team, believe it or not. They were.
Yes, it is again gone in the dim and distant past, but it feels like we're kind of turning a corner. I know everyone's going to be struggling for the next God knows how many years because of the budget, but we're kind of not as in a bad position as everyone else because we've been operating on a shoestring for 20 years. So we're we're not having to cut our cloth as badly as others have had to. I mean, it's obviously because of my role as the chairman of the sports club, I also sit on the joint supporters group with supporters club groups from Ospreys, Scarlets, and 2 from Cardiff, and what you kind of, how can I put this nicely? We've seen a very different WRU changing from the Roger Lewis years to Martin Phillips, and now then the interim period with Steve Phillips, and then with Ian and Nigel. We've yet to meet with the new management, but can't get any worse. So, so basically, and also they're obviously much they're in there to do a job to rectify the wrongs of the past and try and make it a little bit more professional and a bit more well run. So hopefully we'll all then get out of the budget cap. We can and with our situation of now being destiny in our own hands, with people that are passionate and got a bit of money behind them.
Absolutely,
things actually not looking as bad for us as it could have been. And
No, you're right. We talked about on the last pod, didn't we, Gav, about the new era and new people coming in. We've had a lot of false dawns as Dragon supporters, but this does really feel like a new era, doesn't it? You know, we got destiny in our own hands, free from the clutches of the WRU, and I think it was really important that we went private, wasn't it?
Oh,
you know?
Massively, and I think from our point of view as well. I mean, I've had a couple of chats with Mr. Buttress. He's very, very keen to help us as a supporters club to in any way that they can. Now, obviously, we want to be staying as completely. We don't want to be influenced or be seen as cheerleaders for the Dragons. If there's criticism to be aimed there, we want to be free to air those views and to make sure that we can put across our any concerns we have to them. So we don't want to kind of be too pally, because we want to be we want to be that critical voice of the supporters, as well as the at the times that when it's deserved, we shouting their praises. Like, I personally have always marveled at how much work that the community team do, and I don't think we shout about it enough.
It's fantastic. Yeah,
it's incredible work that Mike Sage does with his team, and so I'm always trying to say to them, well, shout a bit louder about that, because they do fantastic work. But then we want to be able to have the critical eye on them as well. I mean, so we will be tapping them up for some additional help, maybe some just maybe simple information that we've got. I'm going to sort of put a bit of a plug out here for the supporters club. We have lost our way a little bit since COVID. Everything kind of dropped off, and we've tried to meet as often as we can as a committee, but we need some extra help. So this is a call out for supporters. If they want to join, if they want to help the committee, have a look at dragonsupportersclub.com. You'll see that the website is completely out of date and rubbish. But that's the kind of thing that we're looking for help from. If there's anyone out there with some web design expertise that could give us a hand, or anything along those lines, people to help on match days. Obviously, we used to have a table in the marquee, but at the end of the day, all of us on the committee, we're all supporters. We're all there to go and enjoy the game. Yeah. And if you're spending an hour manning a table when you actually want to go to the bar, or you want to go to meet your friends down, or meet your mates down on the terrace and all that kind of stuff. So we're just looking to freshen up. So we will be doing an AGM in the hopefully before Christmas, if not shortly afterwards. And then if anybody wants to dip their toe into the world of DOSC, I'm more than happy for them to get in contact. We've obviously got our Twitter page and our Facebook page, and and there's a contact us at, I think it's dragonsupportersclub.com. So yeah, so that's my advert out there.
Oh well, you've touched on something I was going to ask you, Dan. So, what are the benefits of joining the supporters club then for Dragons fans?
Well, it's free, so therefore it's that's one of the
that helps.
That helps. So yeah, what we do, we run the away travel. We only tend to do usually the local derbies, and if we've picked up a trip to one of the English clubs, then we'll do that. We don't tend to organise travel to France, for example. So we run those clubs, and we'll keep everyone up to date on that. We used to do a Player of the Month award, which is again because of our lack of enthusiasm over COVID, that kind of fell by the wayside. So that's been resurrected. We are looking again because as we used to do, sort of when we on our first inception, we had some extra discount in things like the club shop. So we're looking and with other partners around Newport, but we're going to look at seeing if we can start pushing that again, which is again where we possibly need some additional people on board just to try and take that work. Because as I say, we're all volunteers. We've all got busy lives, so it's just making sure that we've got enough people to do the work that we want to do. So yeah, so the benefit is that it's cheap. If you come on board, then you get the chance to push it in a direction that might be a bit more open.
I think you're hiding your light under a bushel a bit there, Dan. You know, kind of you organise away transport that's very reasonably priced and gets people to where they need to get. I think you're a voice for the club as well. You know, you're a voice for the fans within the club, and I think that's important as well.
Yeah,
and a voice that has the ear of the owners as well, which
it does. Yeah. We're but we are probably not blown out trumpet enough either.
No.
So there we go.
Oh, good stuff. Okay, so I think we've covered the supporters club now in pretty good detail, and I'll put out a link in the program notes as well, so people who see this podcast, they can just click on the link and they can sign up. It is free, as Dan said, so you can sign up and it's free to join. So good stuff. Okay, thank you for that. Let's talk now about the Dragons. So I'm going to ask you now, Dan, what are your hopes and expectations for this new season? Are you optimistic? Are you confident we're going to progress, or are you a bit trepidatious like me about how regional rugby is heading and it's going to be another struggle? How are we feeling about it?
I'm cautiously optimistic that we will be top half of the Welsh regions, so first or second of those.
Right.
I'm just because of the disparity in budgets and squads, I think we're going to struggle to get anywhere above halfway in the table. I'd be amazed if we get mid-table. Still suspect we're going to be battling out with the other three in Zebre, but they seem to have improved a bit recently. But I suppose for this kind of time scale of when we're going to be struggling financially I think is more about how we play. It's just little things like, so there were a few games last season where things just didn't quite click, and but in previous years we'd have lost those by 20 points, but we were losing them by 3 or 4 points. So we were getting so much closer, and with the natural progression that I seem to be seeing under Di Flanagan, it seems to be all going in the right direction. And it's just the squad looks happy and they're having a laugh, and they just all seem to be playing for each other. We were commenting on the terrace of the Ospreys that Lewis Jones runs past, and after he's got his face smashed in, and he's having a little laugh and a chat with the supporters, and it's like that kind of personality in the squad does wonders for the rest of the squad. He keeps them happy. You can see on the videos that they do put out on social media that people like Lewis Jones he's just a bit of a special one, isn't he? He's
a bit nuts.
He's just a bit off the wall. But I think you need that, and you can see that they on those videos are all genuinely enjoying themselves. They're enjoying being together as a squad. There doesn't seem to be any sort of little cliques, or they all seem to be they're all taking the mickey out of each other.
What do you think about recruitment, Dan? We spoke about it last week. It'd be interesting to hear your takes on it.
I thought the Martinez against the Ospreys, I thought he put his hand up really well. I thought he was smashing into tackles. He seemed to be going pretty well at the scrum. So I'm quite happy with that signing. The others all seem to be. I don't think I saw any poor performances. Kai Evans was really good with the boot. I know he's obviously been there for a year, but our new 10 in the second half, Steph Hughes, he was all right. that confused the hell out of me for a while. I was going, and it's Steph Hughes and Jack Dixon. Where's they gone? Who's playing 10? And so that kind of thing is it's almost like with some of the players we've got, it's almost like we've got new players again. Ollie Griffiths actually being fit and well, that's like a new signing. If he can stay fit, that's going to be one hell of a battle for back row places over the season. But I think because it was quite a sensible bit of recruitment. We'll see now with Dane Blacker starting on tomorrow.
Friday night, against the Scarlets,
Yep. So, I think, and they seem to be, when they came to the Q&A, Dane and Kai, they certainly were, and as Corey as well came in, didn't he? And they all seem to be very positive about what's going on. So Corey Baldwin as well. I think he's starting as well tomorrow, isn't he? So he's on Friday. So I cautiously optimistic. It's been far too many years of starting the season optimistic, and we're already in October and we haven't lost yet.
That's a positive.
Isn't it? Normally by now my optimism has gone south.
Yeah, I don't like quoting Donald Trump. Stop the count, as he said.
Yeah, we'll definitely be top half the late table now.
So you mentioned the Ospreys game there. Let's just quickly go over that. So the Dragons beat the Ospreys 20 points to 19 in the pre-season friendly of Bonnie Parade last Saturday. It was a game of two halves, isn't it? I hate saying that because it's such a cliche, but I did think it was a game of two halves because I thought we were really good in the first half. But then when we made so many changes in the second, I lost track of who was coming on, who was coming off, who was coming back on. It got very, very messy. So there were tries from Ewan Rosser and Ollie Griffiths in the first half. They put the Dragons 14-0 up. Ospreys hit back with a Jack Walsh try, and Dragons went into halftime 14-7 up. So then at the break, the Dragons made 8 changes. And in total, Dragons used 28 players in this fixture. So pretty much nearly everybody in that squad got some minutes under their belt. I counted 12 changes from the Ospreys just going on their X account because they didn't do a match report for some reason. So I had to look through their live feed. Dragons scored 2 penalty kicks in the second half. Ospreys scored 2 tries through Max Nagy and Lewis Lloyd. Now, we needed a conversion from Jack Walsh in the 75th minute to put the Ospreys in the lead. Unfortunately for him, but fortunately for us, he made an absolute Horlicks of his conversion. And it was pretty bad, in fairness. So, yeah, Ospreys actually outscored the Dragons 3 tries to 2, but it came down to those penalties in the second half, and that's what clinched it in the end for Dragons. I'll come on to the penalties thing in a minute as well, because I got something to say about that. Attendance was 4,670, which I think is a pretty good attendance for a pre-season fixture. And, I am a Newport County season ticket holder as well. And I can tell you now that I've been to games this season and they've had 3,000 odd. So we've had more than what the county have had on a couple of occasions, actually. So I thought that was a pretty decent attendance. So Dan, what were your takeaways from that game then? What did you make of it? Who stood out for you?
So the Argentinian prop Martinez was a standout for me. I thought he was really good. So was Jared Ross's new hairdo. He's copied.
He's a skinhead.
He's copying you, Jamie.
I know. He looks like Russell Crowe from Romper Stomper now, doesn't he? I thought he had that really aggressive look.
He looks like a baby-faced scary man.
Yeah.
Because he's also huge. He's built like a brick outhouse.
Yes.
But I was also impressed with his little brother.
Ewan Rosser. He's quick, mind.
Who took a very quick turn of pace to it was Keelan Giles he was against as well, who's no slouch. I know Keelan Giles had to turn, but so did Ewan as well. So I can't think of anyone that I was disappointed in. Even when we had the Jack Dixon of old clamping onto a ball and getting the turnover in our own 22 again, taking hit after hit, and as he's in a very vulnerable position. And yeah, so there was a lot of positives, I thought. Obviously disjointed after after half time. You kind of expect that, but I thought in the first half we were very good value for money.
Yeah, absolutely. So my talking points are very similar to what you've already touched on there, to be honest. So Kai Evans was very good. And if I had to pick a play of the match, I'd probably go for Kai Evans. I thought he was dangerous with ball in hand. I thought he kicked well. I don't know if you saw that tackle. He put on a brilliant tackle. I think it was on, what's the Welsh centre? My mind's gone blank. Kieran Williams. Yeah. He put a brilliant. I'm not saying it was a try-saving tackle, but it did look like he was going to head for the try line. He brought him down brilliantly. And yeah, I thought he was really, really good, Kai Evans. I think he's going to be a very good signing for us.
And where did he play, Jamie? Because sadly I was in Eastbourne and not Newport at the time. So,
well, he had 15 on his back, but I mean, the players were just playing anyway. When they we even had Steph, who's played at 10 at one point. It did look like they interchanged quite a bit, though, didn't they?
Yeah,
so
it seemed to be very fluid, and I think this is possibly part of what of Dai's plan, is that there are players that are skilled enough to shift around. So we've got the beauty that we can obviously have Will Reed playing at 10 and Kai at 15, but equally Kai can come and take it as first receiver if Will's somewhere else, or Steph Hughes can step in and take it as first receiver. I think one of the things I was impressed with Kai, he was very calm. He seemed to be quite a calm influence at the back. There was no panic, even if there was an Ospreys player charging down at him. He was very calm and didn't rush anything. And he has got a fairly monstrous boot as well. And he's
I was
deceptively quick. I know obviously his dad's a little bit quick, but he doesn't look quick when he's running, but he doesn't half shift over the ground.
He's an accelerator, what I've seen him play last year for Ospreys on the game we played for Wales against South Africa. He's just an accelerator from a standing start. He can get moving quickly. And we talked about this last week, and be interested to see him play a 10 a bit. He has played a 10 for Ospreys, and I think he's got that capability because he's quite a deceptive runner, and he might bring something different out of the attack. But
I
absolutely.
think so.
Yeah, you mentioned his dad there, Dan. We walked past Ian Evans outside Ronnie's bar after the game. He was there watching this boy. My goodness, he looks old. Ian Evans looks really old. Now, I know he's always,
that's
even as a player,
the WIU does.
he looked old as a player. Well, he looked older than his years as a player, didn't he? But that was an observation for me, how old Ian Evans looks. I had to bring that in there because it did surprise me how old he looked. I mean, he's 59, but he looks a lot older than that. Yeah. Okay, so what else? What other talking points? So Ollie Griffiths, you mentioned there earlier. Now, he played 40 minutes and he was very, very good, wasn't he? If there's any justice in the world, the injury gods will leave the guy alone.
Yeah.
Because if he stays fit, I think Dragons win more games. He's that important to us. And I just want him to please have a relatively injury-free. He's going to get injured at some point. We know that. But I'd rather it be for a week or two rather than 2-3 months or half the season, because he is so important to us. So when he's fit, he's so good. He made a crucial turnover. He scored a really good. He looked so hungry. And my dad was saying, Ollie, want to be careful now because, he's looking really up for this. It's pre-season. You don't want to get injured in pre-season. So he really did look up for it, didn't he?
He did. He, as you say, he was all over the park. He was doing the linking, he was doing the carrying, he was doing pretty much everything. And as I say, we have got an embarrassment of riches in the back row.
Yeah,
at the Dragons and in Wales, but he still would be, if he was fully fit and he had a good run of games, he would still be pushing in for that Welsh squad and Welsh team, because he's
had good. One cap, Ollie. And it was Samoa, I think he was away, and it was only 2 minutes. He was brought on for like the 70, and that's just a crying shame, absolute crying shame.
And it's he's just, I just sometimes wish he would put on a bit of fat, because he just seems to, because he is so muscle bound. I don't know whether that's part of the issue that he is ripped, but he maybe a bit of cushioning. That's what he needs.
Our back row does look, if all of them are available, that's quite the back row, isn't it? You've got a real good balance there. You've got athleticism. You've got real defensive steel. You've got some genuine pace as well. In Tane, he really can move. So that's going to be quite a difficult back row to deal with.
It is, and I said there's a mix there as well. You've got the rangy player like Aaron. You've got the nasty so and so in Keddy. You've got all of those different elements of a back row that you want, but you've also got the skills of Tane and that kind of. It's just, we can probably stick out two completely different but equally as strong back rows.
Yeah. We've always done well in the back row. We've always had an embarrassment of riches there. And we've struggled in certain areas of the squad, but back row, I think, has always been an area of strength. The Dragons may have found a prop who can scrummage. Rodrigo Martinez looked pretty solid, didn't he? His defense was pretty good, as you mentioned. There were some big hits going in. Now, he did give away a couple of penalties in the loose, but yeah, I was very impressed with Martinez. Now, we talked about this on last week's pod. We just need a strong scrum, and that's something we've never had. The Dragons have, the scrum has always been an Achilles heel, and it's cost us in so many games not having that platform. So if he can replicate that kind of performance, and if Leon Brown, he needs to stay fit. Can Leon stay fit? I think it's a really big season for Leon Brown, actually.
Oh, it really is.
It is, because we talk about this all the time. He's got so much potential, and he just keeps getting, it's not his fault, of course it's not, but he keeps getting injured at the wrong moments, and then when he is fit for us, he goes off to Wales and then we don't see him, and then he gets injured in Wales Cup and he comes back, and it's really frustrating. I would love Leon to really kick on, because I'm a big fan, but I don't know about you guys, I don't think he's fulfilled his potential yet.
Well, I have two issues with Leon, and one that he hasn't fulfilled his potential, but the other, and for me, I'm very old-fashioned. I'm an old man, I suppose, but I do believe tight head should be able to scrummage, and I don't think it's there for him. He is great round the park. He's like another back rower, but he doesn't do that work that in the scrummage for me.
But then you say that for Wales, though, mind. When you see him for Wales, he has looked relatively solid, doesn't he, in the scrum for Wales?
I think there was a section of, not last season, I think it was the season before, when he had a run of games, and I think I can't remember who was scrum coach at the time, they've obviously done some work with him, and he improved massively, and he just didn't move. You see a typical thing for your tight head, you just an immovable object. But then I think part of the issue then is that because he's had Achilles injuries and he's had calf injuries, maybe that's where sometimes the pressure, when the pressure comes on in the scrum, is the strength, or is there something going on there that he can't keep to that point? Yeah. And he also, and I hate to think that it does happen, but we get the reputation of weak scrummages. So if something goes wrong in a scrum, it's unconscious bias, possibly.
Oh, yeah. I think refs will do that. Refs will think that one's going forward, it's the other team's fault. And sometimes it isn't, because someone will shift to a bind But I think that does fall against us unfairly. And I think the Wales thing is interesting. I think he was starting to look solid, but then under Pivac, I think Pivac decided that scrub props didn't need a scrummage, which is a fatal error.
No, and as a converted back rower, because I think he started off as a number 8, and that he probably hasn't had that schooling, I suppose, from an early age, the technique. So he probably is having to learn. He's learning. He should be learning it pretty quickly now, considering he's a full-time professional. But it's just, and that's where hopefully in training he'll be scrummaging against Rodrigo Martinez, and so we might get a bit of, give it a bit of improvement of that, because there's nothing like live scrummaging to get the technique or sorted, is this?
It's the only actual way to practice it, I think. Scrum machines are great, but scrum machines don't try shifting their binds. They
don't try and pull your arm down. They don't try and
Yeah, he is highly thought of, though, in the Wales camp, Leon Brown. By Gatland and by Pivac, he was highly thought of. But I just want to see him kick on, and again, just try and stay, injury free, because that's the only way he's really going to kick on. I think the guy you was on about when you said coming in to improve the scrum, I remember Dragons bringing in a consultant. I think it was Olivier Azam, wasn't it? The French guy. He was brought in. He was brought in by Dean Ryan, and you're right. Our scrum really didn't improve. I thought he did a fantastic job, Olivier Azam. I wonder if he could come back. I don't know where he is now, but can he come back, please?
We can pay him in cheese, chips, and gravy, because we've got no money, so he can have that, and some Compeed plasters maybe. It was it's the other thing with Leon. He's such a happy jog. He's just like a big smiling kid, because when you see him interact with the kids that are on the side of the pitch, or he's just such a nice lad as well. I think be nasty. have a mean streak. Go on, let's get a bit of a niggle.
And he is big, mind, because I walked past him the other day.
He's
He's a
enormous.
unit, isn't he? He is a big guy.
Absolutely enormous.
Yeah, he really is. Right,
Now
final talking point for me on this game. It's perfectly okay to take penalty kicks in a preseason friendly, in my opinion, right? So I didn't think anything of this at the time. So we took 2 penalties. It was one by Will Reed and then it was one by Kai Evans. I didn't think anything of it at the time. It was then brought to my attention. There were some very salty Ospreys fans on their forums bemoaning the fact that Dragons took penalty kicks in a preseason friendly, because who does that? Nobody does that. Now, I don't know what you two think. I haven't got an issue with it.
Nope.
What does it matter? Where in the rule book or the law book does it say you can't take penalty kicks in a preseason friendly? You know, I don't understand why there's been such a hoo-ha. And Lee, the host of Rap, the main guy, as I call him. Now, he's been on all the other regions pods talking about this, right? He's been on the Scarlet's pod talking about it. He's on a Cardiff pod talking about it. They recorded the Ospreys one tonight. He'll be on about it there. What did you think, Dan? Was you like, oh, we shouldn't be taking 3 points there?
I don't care. I want us to win the game. And it may be a preseason friendly, but we've got to get the winning habit.
Absolutely.
If we'd gone to the corner and missed, and then we lost by 8 points, I don't want that. I want us to win by 1 point. It doesn't matter. I'd have been happy if we'd kicked 6 penalties.
Yeah, Gav, what are your thoughts on it?
Well, my view on it is friendlies are there to prepare you for competitive games, and one of the elements of a competitive game will be taking points when they're on offer. And if you don't practice that and you don't work out your decision making about who's going to kick where, when you're going to kick, when you're going to kick for the corner, when you're going to, this is a chance to practice. And the idea that we should, we're wearing amber and black. We're not wearing black and white hoops. We aren't the barbarians. It's not about flinging the ball. It's about creating a winning team over time. And you do that by developing winning habits. And winning habits include sometimes doing horrible stuff, being quite negative, and kicking penalties. And if Ospreys had won by 1 point, would they be being salty in their forums? Probably not.
No. And good point on that one as well. Is the other bit is, if they don't want us to kick penalties, don't give a penalty away.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah. I talked about this on the Rap podcast because Harley was all about it. And I said, look, I think part of the reason we went for those penalties was because, to be fair, the Ospreys' defence was really good. And we was hammering away near 22. We wasn't really going anywhere. And you know this, Dan, as well, because he was at the game. The lineouts on both teams weren't great. It was pretty windy as well. So there was a lot of non-straight throws. And the lineouts were a mess for both teams. So I think maybe if they had kicked to the corner, they probably would have butchered the line out. Who knows? But we weren't really getting anywhere. We were in the 22. There were times we were just hammering away and not getting any reward. So the sensible thing to do, if it was a URC game, you would take the 3 points, wouldn't you? So we need to build that habit, like you said.
And if you see any of the stuff Sam Lana writes about his analysis, he identifies that the teams win on their kind of red zone percentage. And it's not necessarily about scoring tries. It's about every time you go into that 22, you take opportunities and you score points. And there'll be a bunch of guys with laptops during that game saying, well, take the points, do this, do this. It's ridiculous to imagine in a professional game they're going to treat it like it's the end of, it's the Boxing Day Colts versus the Vets game, because it's not.
Yeah, exactly. And I completely agree on that. Treat it as a competitive game.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's not gone down well with certain Ospreys fans. I did see a comment for one who said it was, and I quote, weird behaviour from us. That was what he said. It was weird behaviour that we took. We dared to take the points and beat them in a preseason friendly. But
how dare us?
How dare the Dragons actually win a game? But
I might drop a little message into the Joint Supporters Group WhatsApp group just to sort of say, how are the Ospreys like in us taking penalties, and see what I can respond. I might get kicked out of it then though.
Maybe don't do that.
Dan Hallet has left. Dan Hallet has been banned from the group.
Okay, so Dragons do have another preseason friendly this week against the Scarlets at Parker Scarlet, 7 p.m. Dan, are you going to this game?
I can't, due to far too much family commitment stuff going on, and yeah, unfortunately, I know we've got the coach going. I think there's not much space left on it. I think there might even have been sold out now. So there'll be a reasonable contingent. I think there's a few others that are going down under their own steam as well. Yeah, so I would have liked to go, because I actually do quite like the Scarlets lot. They're quite a jovial bunch, and they're usually quite good hosts. So.
I don't like going to Park of Scarlets. I gotta be honest. I've not had good experiences at Park of Scarlets, but that's just me personally.
The stadium itself is obviously it's the same as the Ospreys place. It's just a little bit meh.
Yeah, it's opposite DFS on a. It's opposite the DFS on the retail park. It's a strange location.
But they're all built. They're built from kits. All these modern stadiums. The Ospreys one, Southampton's football ground, Park of Scarlets, Pride Park up in Derby. They come with essentially as a big set of steel kits, and you build them like Meccano, and then build the cladding around it. So, which is why they all look similar.
It was pointed out on the terrace on when was it? Saturday?
Saturday.
Yeah, Saturday.
Yeah. Saturday. Yeah.
I forget what day of the week it is as well. That we don't realise how lucky we are, us and Cardiff, that our stadium is smack bang in the middle of the city centre.
Yeah.
Because it's just so much better. You've got so much stuff around. You're not travelling. Again, Ryan, our treasurer, he's been out in France. He went to Lyon. It took him hours to get from Lyon to the actual stadium, and equally on the way back. So we are just very lucky to have our stadium where it is. And thank God they never decided to go and do an out of town stadium, and that was never really mentioned. But it was quite often on various chat forums, which was always a dangerous place.
So I've had a look at these the teams for Friday, and it looks like both teams are going pretty strong, stronger than last week. So Jordan Williams is back in the team. He's at 15. We got the likes of Corey Baldwin, Seal Tompkinson, Steph Hughes is captain, Jad Rosser on the wing, Will Reed at 10. Dane Blacker is going to make his first start against his old club. Rodrigo Martinez, our favourite, Dan, he's starting at loosehead. Jumbo gets an opportunity. James Benjamin, Chris Coleman, Matthew Screech, Ben Carter, Sean Lonsdale, George Young, and number 8, Ollie Griffiths. I won't read through the replacements because there's loads of them, but I'm looking at the Scarlets.
Just read out the squad list.
Looking at the Scarlets though, I mean they got the likes of Tane Plumtree in there, Dan Davis, Carwyn Tupelotu, Kieran Hardy, Owen Lloyd, Combia, Foxy, John Davis, Tom Rogers, and Johnny McNichol. So they have gone a lot stronger than their defeat to Cardiff last week.
Fox's 200th game as well for Scarlets.
Indeed, it is
not bad considering he spent a couple of years out in France as well.
Yeah, well, he's been not so much now, but he's been a brilliant player, hasn't he, over the years? I think he's past his sell by date now, but he's been brilliant for Wales and Scarlets.
That's a decent back row they got there as well, though, isn't it?
It is.
Yes.
Tane Plumtree looks good. I like the look of Tane Plumtree as well.
I think Tupelotu as well. You know, a big, strong lad. You know, kind of gives him plenty to go forward.
I've seen a couple of videos of his when he was playing. Was he up in Sedbergh? Was he something like that? And he's just basically taking the mickey when he was playing in his school team. It's just like people bouncing off him. It's just it's not fair. They should tie your shoelaces together to might even it up a bit.
Yeah, he's a big talent, isn't he? And I emphasize the word big. He's a pretty big lad. So, now there's a few players who aren't included. Leon Brown is not included. Lloyd Fairbrother and Angus O'Brien are not included. But according to Matt O'Brien, the backs coach, they are going to be fit and available for the opener against Edinburgh. So it's not panic stations. They are going to be fit, but obviously they're keeping them in cotton wool, which is probably sensible, I think. So how do we see this game going? Do you want to make a score prediction? Any of you?
I think it's gonna be another close one. I think. There'll probably be a few more tries than from the Dragons, obviously, than it was on Saturday. I reckon there'll be a few more. I'd probably go in the Dragons by one score in a 20-something to 20-something.
Gav,
How about that for sitting on the fence?
I'm going to sit on the fence even more. The splinter's going to be sizable for me, and I'm going to say whoever wins will be by 2. It'll be very close. I'd like to see us ideally win 28-0 or 28-25, but all our points come from kicks, all from penalties.
So I listened to the Scarlet's Fever podcast, the one the lead does with Hugh, and they were very disparaging. They think they're going to blow us out the water, and they were making snide remarks about us just taking penalty kicks and not scoring any tries, which actually would be quite funny if all points were from penalties were there, just to rub it in,
So I would like to point out 27 as 28 isn't a multiple of 3. Just as well, I haven't spent a large chunk of my career teaching maths.
Yeah, so hopefully Dragons will put in a good performance. I mean, results aren't the be-all and the-all in, be-all and end-all in pre-season, but it is good for confidence.
Yes, they are.
Oh, they are they? Okay.
Results are
well, if you're the Dragons, if you're the Dragons, fair enough. But so good luck to them. I won't be going to this game. I'm in London, unfortunately, so I'll be checking Twitter and making sure I'm on top of it.
Can I guess? Is it you watching some other kind of oval-shaped ball?
No, so it's a birthday weekend for me. Cocktails on Friday night, and then on Saturday we're going to see Peter Kay live at the O2.
I thought you might have been. No, you're a bit of an NFL fan as well, so I thought you might have been going there.
Oh no, my team ain't playing there, so no, I'm not interested. But no, Browns fan I am, believe it or not. I choose my teams well, don't I? Dragons, Browns.
Yeah, so I'm a Dolphins fan, and obviously the Bills absolutely
crucified
them.
Yeah,
but we
I
scored
didn't
70
see that result coming.
We scored 70 the week before, so it's fine.
I know, that's yeah. Okay, so Gav, I believe you got a Gwent rugby roundup for us.
Yeah, I feel like I should have a jingle really, but I might produce one over the next week. So over the weeks of the pods, I want to kind of focus on Gwent clubs. So I'm just going to be looking mainly at the Premiership, Championship, and League One. But if any teams want to tell me their scores and give me a little match report I can share with the listeners, I'll be more than happy to do that from any club in Gwent. But if we start in the Indigo Premiership, a good week generally for Gwent clubs, but currently our 3 clubs are in 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Newport in 4th, they've won 2 and lost 1. They lost their first game of the season home to Swansea on the weekend, 26-21, close fought game. Pontypool are in 2nd, just behind Llandovery. They beat Carmarthen 45-21. A dominant performance, and I think Carmarthen came into it a bit later on, but Pontypool had already sorted out by that point. And Ebbw my boys, won 26-10 against RGC, and they're in 3rd. So, kind of looking good in the Premiership for Gwent sides, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th in the league. I think all of them are ambitious. And Dan, you're a Pooler man. I think they fancy the chances in the Premiership this season, don't they?
They do. They've impressed me. I thought they might have struggled a little bit to that little extra step up, where they've not really been pushed that much over the years in the Championship. So there might have been that extra competition, but they've impressed me. The game against Newport seemed to. I know it was a belter of a game, that one.
Yeah, it really was.
So in the Championship East, mixed bag for Gwent sides. Cross Keys went down away to Bargoed 48-24. Bedwas lost by a single point at Rumney and Cardiff 24-23. But Newbridge went to Cardiff and came away 26-20 winners against St. Peter's. So Gwent side's doing quite solidly there. In Division 1 East, lots of Gwent derbies, oddly enough, in a team representing East of Wales or league representative. So Abergavenny lost 27-46 at home to Tallywine. Tayne's old side.
Yeah, indeed.
Bryn Mawr beat Pontypool United 61-17. Quite dominant performance here, but yeah. I'm going to make a comment each week. One of my dad's former clubs, but then I could name most of the clubs in North Gwent, and they're one of my dad's former clubs. But Monmouth lost at home 14-22 to Blaenavon. Blaenavon, I know lots of guys up there, good solid club. And then Risca lost quite heavily at home. They lost 17-67 to NSD, which is one of your former clubs, isn't it, Jamie?
It is, yeah. NSD, yeah. Jason Tovey's there now as well. Yeah.
And then just kind of within the other leagues, Division 2 East, Abtley Blaen Gwent the top from Blackwood. In Division 3 East, Abercarn the top from Machen. Division 4, Newport Saracens the top, Crumlin just behind them. And then League 5, Pont and Fife at top, but there's very little rugby being played and there are lots of cancellations. But Pont and Fife are top by quite some way there. And League 6, sadly, not a Dragons team at the top of the league, so I won't mention League 6.
Yeah, we'll skip that. Don't worry about
that. No. It's a Blues side. We don't want to talk about them.
Moving on then. Moving on.
But, you know, kind of, I think a fairly good week for the club to Gwent. But if any clubs from the smaller divisions want to let me know how they're getting on, be more than happy to talk about them.
Absolutely. Okay, cheers. Thanks for that, Gav. That was a pretty good roundup there. Right then, chaps, let's finish off talking about the World Cup, because we didn't really get to talk about the World Cup on the last pod. So I think we'll talk about it this week. Big game for Wales on Saturday. They just need a match point to top Pool C. Dan, what have you made of the World Cup from what you've seen of it and Wales in general?
Typically Gatland.
Yeah.
Difficult to beat. And in a World Cup, that's what you need.
Absolutely.
I mean, I must say some of the players, it's not the most exciting, but you can see the defensive effort and you can see the effort. But our old second row from last season, Will Rowland, has been an absolute monster of a player. You can see he's not that he's just because he is head and shoulders above everybody else because he's so big, but he has been a head and shoulders above any second row. I don't think there's a second row playing better than him at the moment. We're just difficult to beat, and we've got the players that could create something out of nothing or a drop of a ball, and Lewis Rees-Zammit is under the post. It's that kind of thing. So we've got the players that can do it, and we've also got Jack Morgan who can do a 50-22 from a 22-22.
Yeah. No, he's been superb, and Jack Morgan. I think this tournament's going to be the make of him. I think he's a terrific player. And what about the World Cup as a whole? I mean, how do you think the tournament has been in general?
I've really enjoyed it. I think so. Some of the performances of the tier 2 teams have been a breath of fresh air. Portugal, superb. And I was watching the first half of the New Zealand Uruguay game, and for the first 20 minutes, New Zealand it was almost, I think it was 17, 18 minutes before New Zealand scored. It was 0-0 up until then, and Uruguay was probably a little unlucky not to score. And it's just that there isn't that massive gap anymore between the tiers. And all I hope is that I would love to see in the future a World Cup where after this group stages there would be a second tier competition underneath for those that didn't get into the round of 16. I just think that it would mean a lot. You can imagine you could go with Portugal being in the final of the World Plate or whatever it is, just to keep the interest going and also keep on growing the game in the less well-established nations.
Yeah, absolutely. Portugal have been great to watch, and they're so entertaining. I think all the tier 2 teams, with the exception of Romania, obviously, and Namibia, those two aside, I think they've conducted themselves really well in this tournament, haven't they?
I might be chased out of the pod then, because I think Portugal look lovely, but aren't massively. There's not a cutting edge to them. I think it looks great, and it might work playing against Poland or Romania. But you've seen when they're playing the better sides that they can defend it really, and there were a couple of line breaks. And I imagine when Portugal are playing in the second tier European competition, that's it. It's all of being kind of Taulupe is chased down their winger, and I think it's lovely to watch. I would like to see him against Australia. They just made decisions, and you're thinking, don't play so much rugby.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Shove the ball into the corner and work from the line-out, because they scored a great try against us from the line-out. But they kept playing too much rugby against Australia, and that could have been closer. And they just lack that slightly professional edge, which go, right, calm down. Let's not play rugby here. Let's actually try to win a game.
Yeah, they butchered so many opportunities against Australia, mind. And if they took them, if they were more clinical, I think Australia could have been in real big trouble. But so, what do you think of the World Cup then, Gav? In general, are you enjoying it and seeing Wales progress? Or
I think what I'm really enjoying is Wales, and I've taken an entirely different approach to this. So I've watched all the World Cups, and most of them, even when I was 14 in 1987 or whatever, I think every World Cup has given me a few grey hairs. So this year, now that I don't have much hair and what I do have left is grey, I've just taken the Zen approach. And I was right from the start, I said, we'll top the group, we'll beat every side, we'll get bonus points where we need to get bonus points. And that's just, it's the way it's going. But you can see why, because as Dan has said, we've been brutally efficient. And it's not pretty, and I don't care less because we're winning. and I think that's been the strength of the World Cup for me, because I've gone into games thinking, I've never gone into an Australia game thinking, oh, I'm not worried. And perhaps I was kidding myself, but we didn't need to be worried. We were much better than them. Fiji, we were better than for 50 minutes.
Yeah,
and we lost our head. And what we did against Australia was not lose our head. And every time there was a chance for us to take the foot off the throat, we just pressed it down harder. And that's what we have to do against Georgia. We have to be absolutely clinical and brutal against Georgia. And then we have to do the same against Argentina or Japan the next round. It has to just be play rugby that wins games, not play rugby that looks nice. But in terms of the World Cup, I think I've enjoyed some of the teams I've watched. Really enjoyed watching Tonga. I like the way they play the game. Chile brought a real breath of fresh air. I like watching Portugal, but they frustrated me in that I just, come on, boys, just use your heads a little bit more. Romania have stunk the place out a bit, but
unfortunately,
and I can remember great Romanian sides. Romanian side that beat us in Cardiff in the 80s. It's a different world, I know that, but France have looked imperious. I sadly live in England, and lots of my teammates and my club seem to think that England are looking great, and I point out to them scoring 11 tries against Chile is not an indication of quality. But you've got to let them have these things. But I think it's good. But we will see one of South Africa, Ireland, or France with their hands on the trophy at the end, I imagine.
Yeah, fair enough. So Wales, as I said, they got Georgia on Saturday. It's 2:00 kickoff, I believe, UK time. There are 4 Dragons in the team. So we got Tane Basham, we got Elliot Dee, we got Rio Dyer, and Aaron Wainwright. Who stood out the most for you, Dan, out of those Dragons? I mean, Lydiate is also in the squad as well. But I mean, which Dragon has really impressed you in this World Cup?
Wainwright. I
agree.
I just think he's just solid all-round player anyway, but his engine is huge. He just keeps running. He just keeps running. He keeps running, and he's also a good liner option as well if we ever need to use him.
He was another one that Pivac ruined a little bit, but he's back to his best now, I think.
Yes. Yeah, it's no coincidence, is it? Gatland's back now, and Elliot Dee is back in the fold and is playing good rugby. Aaron Wainwright is back in the fold and beating back to his best. I think Aaron Wainwright's been absolutely fantastic. I think Rio has been really good. It's just a frustrating, it is a bit frustrating. He hasn't managed to get any tries yet. And I think he's working really hard, but for little reward.
Especially when I put him in my fantasy team and he can score.
I might be wearing black and amber shades here, but I would pick him over Rees-Zammit.
I think I would. Yeah,
I think he's defensively more sound, and I think the thing with Louis, there is that kind of moment of magic, but I think Rio just gives you a bit more structure.
He's also brilliant in the air.
Yes.
And he chases kicks non-stop.
Yeah, his work rate's incredible.
From kickoffs as well. From kickoffs, he's an absolute terrier. And I think Rees-Zammit is lacking a bit in defence. I think he's easily found out. He can be found out defensively, Rees-Zammit, but I'm happy with the representation we've got, though.
Yeah, I am as well. Have you noticed how complimentary Gatland is about Wheel Dyer in the post-match press conferences afterwards? You know, he's always singling him out, doesn't he, about his work rate, how good he is in the air. And, you know, I think, but Gatland's a big fan of his. But I just want to see him now score some tries.
Yeah.
You know, I'd love to see him, like, you know, score a hat-trick this weekend against George. I'd love that. Or just to get on the score sheet, you know?
When he first came onto the scene, his kick chasing and off kickoffs as well, it was just immediately noticeable that he was almost there before. You know, even if you'd stick it in the 22, he'd still be there ready to try and collect the ball. So, you know, because he's obviously very rapid as well.
Of course. Okay, so let's make our predictions and then wrap this up. So, what are we thinking? Wales versus Georgia. Gav, what's your score prediction for this one?
42-12.
42-12. That's pretty comprehensive victory. You don't think Georgia pose a bigger threat?
I think, you know, you can tell how much people know about the game when people say, "Oh, Georgia have got good pack." Georgia haven't had a strong scrimmage for about 4 or 5 years, and I don't think they're that side anymore. They're good in the backs, but I think we've got more than enough to deal with them everywhere on the field. And I know we lost to them, but I don't count those. You know, Dane Blacker was on the bench for Wales that day, and I like Dane as a player, but he's not an international scrum half.
I don't think he even got on the pitch, though, did he? I don't think he even made his debut. No. I was at that game, by the way, and on the one hand, it was lovely seeing Georgian players crying, falling to their knees, and the fans, but that was a pretty grim day. It was also the first game I took my daughter to. That was her first Welsh international, and I'm sure I've scarred it for life now because she was very upset after the game, as was I. And that was the final nail in the coffin for Pivac as well, wasn't it? He was never going to come back from that.
You can't come back from it. We shouldn't be losing to a team playing at that level. As simple as that.
No, and Gatland has never lost to a tier 2 team. I'm not including Scotland in that either before anyone makes those jokes. I know it's an old joke, but I'm not including Scotland in that. Okay, Dad, so what's your prediction for this weekend, mate?
I don't think we're going to score quite as many as that. But equally, I don't think Georgia are going to score as many because I think our defence is that much better. So I'm probably going to go with 35-10.
35-10, okay. Yeah.
They'll get a lucky try at the end when we.
Yeah. I was quite conservative on the Rat Pod because I said 10-15. But the more I think about it now, I think it might be more. I actually think we might win by 20-25 points, I think. I don't think it's going to be a massive blowout because Wales don't do massive blowouts, really, do we? But I do think this is going to be pretty comfortable. So I'm gonna change my score. I know I said 10-15 on that, but I'm actually gonna go 25 now, I think. But so there we are then. That's it then. Gav, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. And Dan as well, thank you for being our first ever guest on this pod. It's really appreciated. And I think that's it for tonight. Thanks again for listening to us. You can now find us on Spotify. Yes, we finally made it onto Spotify. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter. We will be on Apple very soon, but it goes through a third party. It's a Sports Social Network, and they sort it all out. So it takes time, apparently. But the good news is we are available on Spotify. So thank you very much for listening. We had great feedback after the first episode. It's much appreciated. So that's it, guys. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.